Hola, buenos dias, or guten Morgen, or good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Here is going to be our government presentations, much like we would do in class. I am doing it this way versus a live stream, just A, to save some time, and B, just makes it a lot easier. So, as you are watching, you're going to need your notebook. So go ahead and pause this video now, go grab your notebook, and I'll be here. Okay, you hopefully paused the video and you grabbed your notebook by this point. If you already had it, nice, high five. Here's 3 things I want you to kind of do as you watch these presentations. You're just going to take some light notes. What does that mean? Well, you don't need to write this word for word. Let me say that again. You do not need to write this word for word. However, instead, focus in on these 3 things as you watch. So first would be like 3 things you learned. Don't just take this from the very first video, by the way. Second, what are 2 things you found interesting? Something you didn't know, something that was really cool. Maybe it's about a modern leader, maybe about a Greek leader, who knows? And the last one, what is a question you still have? If you had a question as you're watching, write it down. That's a great thing to do. If you had a question come to mind, just write it down. If not, well, then come up with a question based on some of the things we talked about today. That being said, don't make your question a lame yes or no question. That's lame. Come up with something a little more creative. Think. All right. And keep in mind, on this side over here in the video, there's the little pausey bit. So if you need to write something like, I don't know, this stuff, or maybe your question, hit pause at any point so you can write something down. Also, if you notice some people are going to talk really fast when they're presenting because they're freaked out and stuff and they're very nervous, if that's the case, feel free to come over here, and there's this little cranky doodad that kind of looks like this. Oh my gosh, it's flowerish. There we go. It's a sunflower. See, there's the seeds in there. But down here, this little cranky bit, you can change the speed of the video. So if someone's talking really fast because they're freaked out and they're very nervous, even though no one's watching them, but they're still really nervous, maybe slow it down so you can hear what they're saying a little easier. And that's the big stuff. So I am just going to go in alphabetical order because I'm in naval. And first up is going to be Jaquan, Jacavius, Jacob, with monarchies and aristocracies. You will hear his voice, and I'm going to mute my own, and here we go.
This is a slide on monarchies and aristocracies. Government summarization for monarchy. Monarchy was the earliest government in Greece. A king or queen has supreme power in a monarchy. Monarchies are ruled by kings or queens. Monarchies were the most used form of government in the Greek city-states until they changed over time. Government summarization. Aristocracy. The upper class of society ruled a form of government called aristocracy. This form of government was also ruled by nobility. The Greek city-state Corinth began as a monarchy and later changed to be ruled by an aristocracy. That same path was followed by many Greek city-states. City-states, monarchy. A Greek city-state called Sparta was governed by a monarchy. The Spartans were ruled by 2 kings and a council of elders. Some Spartan kings ruled from 3 to 14 years. The Greek city-state Athens was an aristocratic government. Athens was ruled by a series of aristocracies. Athens were ruled by aristocracies for 113 years. Modern-day monarchy. England is a modern-day monarchy. Queen Elizabeth II rules England. Queen Elizabeth II has been ruling for 68 years. The Kennedy family is a modern-day aristocracy. The Kennedy family is a modern example of an aristocracy. The Kennedy family has been in the United States for 171 years. The current members of the Kennedy family are in New England. And that's it.
Hello, this is my government presentation on direct and indirect democracy by Kennedy Clemens. Democracy is a government in which the citizens make political decisions either directly or through elective representatives. There's two types of democracy, direct and indirect. How did direct democracy work? How direct democracy worked was that 50 men from each of the 10 tribes got picked to be the Council of 500 men for 1 year. The Council of 500 suggested laws to the Assembly for debate. The Council gave recommendations to the Assembly. Laws were passed by a majority vote in the Assembly. How did the indirect democracy work? How the indirect democracy worked was that people elected representatives to make laws like the United States. City-states that had direct democracy. Athens in the 5th to 4th century BC had an amazing system of government. Athens had the largest direct democracy. All male citizens had equal rights, freedom of speech, and could participate directly in the political arena. Other city-states that have direct democracy: Argos, Syracuse, Sparta, Rhodes, and Itheraia. Countries that had indirect and direct democracy: Switzerland and Paris had direct democracy. Countries that had indirect democracy were Great Britain, whose Prime Minister was Boris Johnson, Canada, whose Prime Minister was Justin Trudeau, and Australia, whose Prime Minister was Scott Morrison. That was my government presentation on indirect and direct democracy. Thank you.
So for my slideshow, I did direct and indirect democracy by me. For my summarizing government slide, I said the Council of 500 was made of 50 men from each of the 10 tribes. So they were like 10 tribes and 50 men came together to create Council of 500. They had to be 30 or older to become a member, and members of council could serve for a term of 1 year and only get re-elected once. Specific members of council suggested debate laws to the Assembly. The majority vote passed the law, and the council advised the Assembly. An indirect democracy, more commonly used today, is where people vote on representatives to create laws instead of them all coming together as a community. And direct democracy is where the community comes together to vote on laws. So for my city-states, I said one that had a direct democracy was the Athens. Only Athens citizens, well, just men, ruled the government. Women, foreigners, and enslaved people could not take part in the government. Citizens had to serve in the army whenever they were needed and serve on juries. A man named Pericles ruled the Athenian government. He ruled from 461 to 429 BC. The Corinthians had a democracy, and it was one of the most wealthy city-states. In the Persian Wars, the Corinthians were allies with the Spartans to defeat the Athens. Corinthia was ruled by the Bacchiad family during the 7th and 8th centuries from 658 to 628 BC, so for 30 years. They were eventually overthrown by Psellus, who ruled the city as a tyrant from about 657 to 550. Switzerland is a modern-day country that has democracy, so it has direct democracy. Simonetta Sommaruga is the ruler of Switzerland. She was elected on December 11th in 2019. She is ruling right now. The United States has indirect democracy. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He was elected on November 9th, 2016, and he is still the president. That's it.
My government was the oligarchy government. The oligarchy government's rulers had to be rich and a powerful individual. They usually were landowners. The word oligarchy means few, and so they ruled in groups, like small groups, so they weren't a ton. But that's kind of why they were named the oligarchy, because like few, and they ruled in groups. Money, though, was not all they needed to become a ruler. They also needed to be born a citizen, like they couldn't be from somewhere else, and just like they could have been rich and stuff, but they weren't born a citizen. So yeah, they can do that. The Athens were one of the more popular or well-known, I guess, and they have like city-states just in general, and especially that had the oligarchy government, because most of the population was kind of like done with they had a small government, and then the Athens kind of brought in people to change it from a small government to a bigger government, because it was like a one ruler government before. They didn't necessarily say what government it was, but they changed to an oligarchy, and that was around 500 BC. But overall, the oligarchy was fairly common government styles. Athens were just one of the most, like, the major ones, I guess. So modern day, oligarchy in modern day does not just have to be a country, it can also be like a company. If you were like the CEO or CFO of like, or a small group of upper class in an upper class position, that is kind of like an oligarchy, because like you're upper class and like you're kind of take charge in what you're doing if you like are a CFO or CEO. And the oligarchy government, like actual government, is still in some small countries, but not many. And then my works ended, so yeah.
For my presentation, I got triants. Government. Triants was someone who took power in a legal way. To the Greeks, a triant was someone who had the power of a king without being of royal birth. Poor people were not a part of the government in monarchies, ancestocracies, or oligarchies. If a wealthy person wanted the power, he would ask poor people to support him in becoming a leader. Some triants worked to help poor or created building programs to provide jobs. City-states. The triants were held under the Persian Empire. In the 6th and 5th centuries BCE, Greek military leaders began small empires, expanding power beyond the traditional boundaries of the city-states. These triants kept control by expanding the spheres of power controlled by their city-states. The last one is called the Eastern Triany, from the 6th and 4th centuries BCE. At this time, the triant leader was Pestrintos, I don't really know how to pronounce that, and ruled for 10 years, died 527 before Christ. People in city-states. From about 650 BCE to 500 BCE, people in some Greek city-states looked to men who said that they wanted to overthrow kings or oligarchies and to make life better for the people. These men became triants. Some triants used their power for good, but there were always more cruel and harsh triants than good ones. This caused most people in city-states to rise and use their strength and numbers to overthrow the triant out of power. Modern-day examples. Today in 2020, there are 50 dictatorships in the world. There are 19 in sub-Saharan Africa and 12 in the Middle East and North Africa. One dictator in Cuba is named Miguel Diaz-Canel, and another dictator in Algeria is named, I'm not even going to try.
Monarchy and aristocracy. Monarchy. From 2000 BCE to 200 BC, most Greek city-states were ruled by monarchs. Kings ruled. Once a king died, the people in the city-state used to just pick a person to take their place. But then, over time, the kings demanded that he would give his spot to his children. This is how their government works and how it does today. What can monarchy kings do? Monarchies can do lots of stuff like make laws and set taxes, oversee religious ceremonies, lead armies in war, act or be a judge, decide punishments for people who didn't follow laws or didn't pay taxes. What happened to monarchy government? Most of the kings had a council of advisors who helped them make decisions. Most of them were wealthy and educated, who were from the city-state. But over time, the advisors wanted to have more power than the king. The advisors realized that they outnumbered the king, so they all decided to overthrow the king, and they took power for themselves. Then, by 800 BC, most city-states in Greece were not ruled by kings. Modern day and city-states. One modern-day monarchy is the British royal family. They are a monarchy because they have a queen, Queen Elizabeth II. Also, the Netherlands is a modern-day monarchy. They are a monarchy because they have a king, King Willem Alexandra of the Netherlands. One city-state in Greece that was a monarchy is called Corinth. Corinth was known for their architecture. Corinth's government was a monarchy and was ruled by a king. One other city-state in Greece that was a monarchy was called Thebes. Thebes was a very powerful city-state. Thebes was north to Corinth and was famous for their literature and one Greek legend. They allied with King Xerxes I to fight against Sparta in the Athens and Persian wars. Aristocrats. Aristocrats took over monarchy government. They owned lots of land. They ruled with a council. You got to have political power if you were wealthy. Because of the way that the power was transferred, the citizens did not get much say. Rights and responsibilities. Rights. The aristocrats had more rights than most people because of their positions in the government. They could purchase as many slaves as they wanted and purchase as much land as they wanted. Responsibilities. The aristocrats had lots of rights, but they had lots of responsibilities too. Some were, they had to command the armies of their city-state and manage their land, and sometimes even manage the whole city-state.
Direct Democracy by Sophia Pozo. Direct democracy summarization. So what direct democracy is 500 people are drawn, and they're called the Council of 500. There are 50 men drawn from each of the 10 tribes. They each had to serve 1 year. So what happened is they had ideas to take away laws and make new laws, but nothing was for sure until people voted on it. Only men could vote on it because slaves, free non-citizens, and women, they couldn't do it, and free non-citizens for Athens. But the direct democracy worked for about 100 years. It was really a experiment, and it ended after the Peloponnesian War, which was a war with Sparta. So the city-states that had direct democracy, so there was Athens, the main one that I did mine about. Then there was Argos, Rhodes, and Erythrae. And then they all had it at one point in time. Some modern day there's only one modern day example that I could find of a direct democracy, which is Switzerland, and it has been a direct democracy since 1891. Then examples of indirect democracy is Great Britain, France, Australia, and Canada. The difference between direct and indirect democracy is, so in direct democracy, they just pick people at random, and then they make decisions, and then the people vote on those decisions. But in indirect democracy, the people elect people, and those people make the decisions. And my work's ended. Thank you.
So for my project for presentations for social studies, I did, I was chosen for monarchy and aristocracy. I don't know how to pronounce them, but yeah. So the summary of monarchy is pretty simple. It was the first form of government in ancient Greece. The monarchy government was run by a monarch, which was like a king, queen, someone from like a royal family. People who were just like more like rich and stuff would be the people who would run it. A lot of monarchies, like people that had the monarchy government, ended up becoming aristocracies. So the aristocracy is a government ruled by people who are higher in society, or nobles, and that's what they're known for, being like noble and stuff. And they are the highest class in certain societies, especially those holding hereditary titles or offices. So it's like, it's more of like explaining like, that explains like people that are higher in society have bigger titles for their names of, or like they're bigger in the office and stuff. Like those are the people that would usually rule the government. So one city-state that used to use monarchy and aristocracy was a city named Corinth in Greece. It started off as a monarchy, and then they later decided to become an aristocracy. Sisyphus was their leader, and he created it, and he ruled until Zeus punished him for being cruel, because he was like known for being like cruel to his citizens and stuff, and he wasn't a good leader. So he was punished to a life of pushing a boulder up a hill of Mount Olympus. I think that's what it was. So some modern day examples are the United Kingdom. They still use a monarchy today, and their monarch or leader is Queen Elizabeth II. She's ruled since 1973, and she came from like a really long line of people in England, and her her mother is Queen Elizabeth, and it's pretty self-explanatory because it's Queen of England. And then an example of the aristocracy government is in France. They don't really like have like an actual leader for their government, but they still consider themselves like noble and stuff, so it like makes them part of that government. I couldn't really find anything about people like in modern day society using it except for France, but they don't have one certain leader. They might have like a little like secret club or something that they have a leader, but like it doesn't say it. So, and there's works cited. So pretty much the government is like not really self-explanatory, but the monarchs is just people who were kings or queens were the people that ruled, and in aristocracies the people that ruled were people who were higher in society. So I mean, it could still be kings and queens, but it was also people who were noble,
So it's just that. So, yeah. Thank you for watching my presentation.
All right, thank you. Nice job, everybody. From here, with the notes you have, the things you've written down, those 3 areas, I have an exit ticket for you for today. You will see it posted along with this video, and just go and put what you wrote down as your 3 things. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Bye.